All right, I think we're live. If there's anyone in the chat, please let me know if you can hear me. And as we get going, I will just let you know. I think we're going all right. Oh, yes. Great. Okay, well, it's my 7th rebirthday. From the time I reclaimed my virginity, it's kind of surreal. It's been so long now, and it was such a long road to get there. So, let me just talk a little bit about that day to start off with. So I had genital reconstruction, gender confirmation surgery with Marcy Bowers on March 4th, 2015, and just celebrating it now. It was in Burlingame, and I think I got a hotel in San Bruno, as I recall, and spent the I should say that my birthday is March 3rd, so March 4th is kind of symbolic in that it's pretty much the same day as my birthday, but it's the only day that it is a command in the calendar, March 4th, move forward, and so I did. The prep for surgery is kind of heavy duty. I had a pre-op appointment consult with a doctor, talked with her about, just like what I had to work with and what to expect, and that all seemed to go fairly straightforward. I can't remember a whole lot more of it other than I just had to tell her a few things about, how it all worked, and there was plenty of skin because I was uncircumcised, thankfully. And the next day I spent clearing out my digestive system, which I'm sure you've all heard about, where you basically drink a gallon of watered down lube and stay by the bathroom. But the day before, that wasn't super exciting, but I celebrated with a friend a little bit the day before that, and then my dad arrived to be with me on that, and it was a help to have him around for sure, and thought it was interesting to have him around at the same time as my actual birth, you get into surgery really early in the morning. I think it was probably 7 in the morning or something like that. And I was honestly positively giddy with excitement because I had worked for so long and so hard to actually get to that moment, which I'll get to in a bit. But I was overjoyed to find this doctor too, because I hadn't expected to go to her initially. I'd been researching transgender surgery for probably 25 years prior to it, and I'd previously picked out a doctor, but things changed, and the surgery advanced, and I found somebody better who was actually closer to me. I asked her as we went into surgery, "Are you ready to make your latest masterpiece?" And I think she appreciated that, because that's kind of her attitude, as she was working really hard to push the level of the surgery forward. Okay, off on a tangent. So, I never even saw the inside of the operating room because, as soon as I saw the anesthesiologist, he gave me something that put me right out completely. And Woke up, I guess, 5 or 6 hours later in the hospital bed with everything on fire, and very woozy, but very relieved that it was over. Um, I should say, for anyone watching, if there's any questions you have, feel free to interject and I'll add them in as we go. Um, the hospital was actually really nice. I have to say, for my first hospital visit, I was impressed because it actually had high quality food, which you don't usually hear about from hospitals. And, saw the doc, she was good. Everything went all right. It was a little bit hard to know what was going on at first. Everything was super inflamed and swollen. You're in sort of like a compression panty thing that keeps everything held in, and then they keep you apply some bacitracin on it, keep you on meds as you go through. I think I was in the hospital for 2 days, maybe 3. I think I was in it for an extra day, but it was difficult to even stand. It's a pretty brutal procedure because not only are you getting all of your genitalia dissected and reconfigured into a different position, you're also having to have a large hole put in your perineum. So it's a pretty major surgery, and there's a lot of cutting, and it takes a long time to get over, quite honestly. After the hospital, I went back to, I should say, yeah, it all went pretty okay, I suppose, as well as it can be when you're after struggling through that much trauma. Stayed for another week, I think, at the hotel where I just basically lay around in bed and did my dilation routine. Had a follow-up at the doctor's office to learn that routine and get some and also I wanted to talk to the doctor too because I had no feeling anywhere down there, and that really concerned me. But that was just because of the surgery. It came back eventually. It takes, I suppose it probably took something like 3 years total for all the feeling to come back. But and I'm still getting little twinges about things coming back as time goes on, but not so much that I notice as much as I used to. There was so anyway, the doc told me I was all good to go. Went back to hotel, kept doing my dilation, and I was actually still really looped on pain pills, but also overjoyed just to be able to have the body I've been dreaming of for so long, that I'd spent so many years thinking I could never have it. It kind of blew me away. The first year after surgery was the hardest. Once we got back, we drove down to my home in Santa Barbara, where I was living, and got my dad back on a plane out. But it was still really rough, and I couldn't really take care of myself, so I went to stay with another friend for a few weeks, and she was just a lifesaver because all I could really do was sleep at that point, and not much else. And to have somebody to be able to help care for me was really crucial. So shout out to Mo. Thank you so much. it was like a dream to be able to stay with you. And I know she's the kind of person who's getting what she deserves from that. Dilation continues, for the first 3 months. You have to do a pretty rigorous schedule of about 3 times a day, at least. Certain doctors have different routines more than others, but that's just how it goes. I spent let's see, I think it was about 6 months before I actually lost my virginity for the second time, uh, with a good friend of mine who um, had been with me through the whole process, actually, and it seemed really fitting that it was with her that I lost my second virginity, and that was really so much better than the first time I lost my virginity. Um, so great that that's even possible. Getting to a place where I was more comfortable in relationships was a challenge. I did want to certainly have as many romantic partners as I could actually at that point, because I was like I had a cat on a hot tin roof. I had a new pussy and I wanted to take it for a walk, so to speak. And a lot of it was a kind of a mixed bag. I think if anything has proven to me more the truth about being with a partner you care about, being a woman has really brought that home, because it's really not possible for me to be sexually satisfied with a stranger or someone I'm not intimately connected to on a heart level. And so that had caused a number of misadventures along the way. Um, at least there was some reasonably okay sex out of it, but I always knew I wanted more. It was always so much easier to come when I was with somebody I was actually interested in romantically. So what's the point of having a vagina and just wasting it on somebody who you don't really care about? There's no point to that. And I think that's one thing that I've learned is, just the importance of being in a quality relationship with anyone you're physically involved with. There's a lot of powerful energy exchanged when you're intimate with somebody, and if you're not careful, you could exchange that energy with the wrong person. I found that every time I've gotten really ill after sex, it was with somebody I shouldn't have been with to begin with. So, word to the wise, don't put yourself through that. It's just not worth it. I have thought that, it seemed like my love life was always much more challenging after being post-op for whatever reason. But I think a lot of it was just like learning to be happy with my own body again. I mean, I was happy with it, but I was like, what's going on? How am I here? What's the true nature of this new body, and where am I at in the world? And learning how to have confidence in that has made it much easier to have romantic relationships with other people. I suppose that's the best way you can go forward. And so that's what I'm doing, is I'm not just looking for easy hookups anymore. I'm only looking to make romantic connections with people, and that leads to the best sex imaginable. I suppose I could get into a little bit of the road to get to surgery, if that's not too boring. I know it took a long time. Let's see, I think it took about 4 years for me through transition. It took a long time for me to actually go through the process with my first gender therapist to make sure I really wanted it. I had an orchiectomy to begin with because I wasn't sure. I thought, well, maybe that'll be enough. Maybe I could be happy with just having an orchiectomy. But I wasn't. Actually, it was a big mistake to actually do the transition because I was, have the surgery because I had finally gotten medical insurance through Obamacare. I hope this is still streaming. It looks like I might have lost my signal, but okay. Anyway, so I had finally gotten insurance through Obamacare, and I was able to actually have surgery. I discovered Marcy Bowers through a transgender care seminar conference that was going on in San Luis Obispo that I went to with a friend, and when I found out some of the advances she'd made, it really made me overjoyed to actually think I could actually go to her. So I did. I applied, and I was able to get letters of recommendation from my therapist that I was seeing at the time, who thankfully was a member of WPATH, as was my therapist from Honolulu, who was able to write me the secondary letter that I needed, because you need two. And then I was put on the waiting list, which I was told at the time was 2 years, but it turned out to be only 1 year because lots of people had to drop out for whatever reason, and I kept getting pushed up in the schedule. It's excuse me. There are a lot of hoops you have to jump through in order to have the surgery, and I think that's a good thing because it is so severe and life-changing. I always knew it was going to be extremely painful. It was. I had other post-op friends who had told me, and I could see it in their face, that it was extremely painful. And I was prepared for the physical pain, but I wasn't as prepared for the emotional pain, which was kind of a surprise. I didn't realize how emotionally painful that was going to be, to lose that much nerve ending potential. So for about 6 months after that, I was able to feel better about it. Like I said, the first year was really rough, but there was a big improvement at around 3 months, and another really big improvement at around 6 months. So I hope you're still hearing this. My stream seems to be unstable. Anyway, it's been quite a journey. I don't suppose anyone has any questions. It doesn't seem like it, but hey, in the chat, let me know if you do. It looks like I have some data issues. I don't know. So I hope you all are having a good night. It's been really a blessing to be able to change my body in such a profound way. When I needed to transition and have a female body like needing to sneeze. There was just no way around it. And that I was able to do it is really amazing. Before I first went to see a gender therapist, I remember riding my bike one day to work, and realizing that I couldn't bear the thought of being an old man. We're growing old being an old man, but um, I really needed to be. I need to have a woman's body just in order to survive, just as an act of survival. And so that's when I decided to go see a gender therapist. I wish I had years previously, honestly. I had been in the closet for probably 11 years, out to myself, but not really out in the greater public other than to my friends or at night, never in daylight or at work or anything like that. My initial therapist, when I brought up gender stuff, she dissuaded me, which it was really sad. I don't think she should have done that, but I think she was trying to be helpful, but in the end, she was not helpful. That's just how it goes. One thing I'll say about recovering from surgery, since going back to the vaginoplasty, since I put on that off, I got off on that long tangent. There was a heavy-duty dilation routine for the first year. After the first year, it was reduced to twice a day, and honestly, by the third year, you could do it once a day, but that was optional. By the fourth year, was it even that? No, it was. Oh, I'm lost in time. Anyway, it healed well, pretty much soon enough that I hardly had to do the dilation on a routine schedule at all. I could skip it for a while and it wasn't a big deal. And I still can. I enjoy it though, thankfully. I've known some trans women who had bottom surgery and they found dilation incredibly painful, which I'm really so sorry for them because I love it. I mean, I think it feels great. And I guess that's just a testament to the doctor I had. But to me, I think my equipment works amazing. I love having sex. I love being penetrated. Everything works really well overall. The skin of my penis has been turned into my vulva, basically. Part of the head turned into the clit. I have the inside is like part of the skin of the penis and the testicles, so it's kind of weird because what used to feel like an itch on my testicles is now inside my vagina. So that took some getting used to. Thankfully, I don't get too many of those anymore, but that was a problem for a while. But at least I still had sensation there, and the more sensation is good. More sensation is good. It's just kind of bizarre, like, how they put it all together. I've enjoyed the way it's sort of come together too, because the skin around the opening of the vagina, which didn't have feeling for a long time, is actually now really sensitive because it was the tip of my foreskin. So that was a relief because for the first year or two, I didn't have a whole lot of sensation there, but it's come back, and that's really pleasant, I must say. It's nice to have sexual organs that work, and now I just need some partners, again, that are worthy. It'll happen again soon, I'm sure. I mean, it has happened again recently, but I guess I'm hungry. I always want more, because I have a pretty high libido, and I feel fortunate for that. I know a lot of post-op women who don't have much of a libido. I think part of it because they tend to have not enough testosterone in their system, and it's easy for trans women to not want to take any testosterone because we're so victimized by testosterone poisoning over our lifetimes, but really we need to have a certain amount just to have our bodies work properly. To have our bodies work, you know, you have to, and if you're not making your own testosterone, the only thing making testosterone in your body is the pituitary gland, and it makes hardly any. So just to get to the point where you're at, like a regular woman, you have to take an injection of testosterone, and most trans women don't want to do that. But when you don't have that, you're tired all the time, your muscles don't work, and you have no libido. And I lived that way for a couple of years, and it was not pleasant. It really made a huge difference when I finally started taking testosterone after my orchiectomy, because I didn't have to take a 3-hour nap every day. You know, it's debilitating to not have your hormones in order, and I think it's really difficult for people like myself to find an endocrinologist who's familiar with trans care issues and who knows enough about endocrinology for sex hormones, because a lot of them deal more with, say, like insulin or diabetes, that kind of thing. So looking for an endocrinologist, do your work if you can at all. Find a doctor that deals with sex hormones. I'd strongly recommend it. Then it's, you know, then you have a libido. Then you actually want to have a physical relationship with people, which to me I find very rewarding. Maybe not everybody does, but even if you don't want the libido, you know, maybe you want to be able to use your muscles. Maybe you don't want to be tired all the time. Just a thought. Still no message, still no questions. So I'll just say that I guess that'll probably wrap it up then. You know, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be here. It's certainly been a hard road, and it's been a hard road after surgery too. You know, surgery isn't a magic bullet. That just kind of gets